The Detroit Pistons are bad at basketball. In fact, they're quite possibly the worst basketball team in NBA history. Taking a look at their schedule, they have now not won a game since before Halloween. Their last win was October 28th. They did not win a game in all of November, and it is now December 12th, and they still have not won a game in December. You guys can see this losing streak. It almost looks fake. They were actually positive. They start off the season 2-1, as you guys can see here, with a win against Charlotte and a win against Chicago. Now, after that, it all went downhill. You guys can see they take a look. They take a loss to OKC, and I'm not going to read off every single loss, but a lot of them aren't close. Like, if you take a look at these scores, they're really not in any close games. Right here against Atlanta, they take a 6-point loss, 8-point loss against Cleveland. Those are considered close losses to them. They almost beat Denver somehow. I'm not sure what happened there, but that's crazy. The Pistons almost beat Denver. Of course, it's at home in Denver. There's no shot. It's a 4-point game. But yeah, like they're not even in like majority of these games. I went on StatMuse and I looked up worst NBA records of all time in a single season. Now, I thought that these stats would only be finished seasons, like all 82 games, you know what I'm saying? No, they factor in current seasons, like if you're, 23 games into the year, like the Pistons are, and they literally are having the worst season of all time when it comes to records, which is pretty much, the main, meter or whatever, the main thing that determines a team's success. They are 2-21. The next worst season is 7-59 by the Bobcats. That's in the lockout season. So that wasn't even a full season. Then you got the 1972, 73, 76ers that went 9-73. So that's a full 82 games. The current Pistons are on pace to do worse than that. I think they're on pace for 8 wins, maybe not even 8, maybe 7, something like that, bro. And it's bad, bro. There's not a lot of teams that have started off worse. In fact, I think there's only 4 that have started off 1-22 in their first 23 games. There's only 4 teams that have started off with 1 win. Pistons, luckily, have 2. The Pistons always tweet out their scores like all of the other NBA teams after their game. You guys can see they lost 123 to 131 against the Pacers. And if you scroll down, there's a reply here that says almost there. This guy looked up, I guess, the longest losing streak in NBA history, which is by the 76ers, who lost 28 games. And this isn't even in one season. So I kind of thought it would be, one season of losing, but apparently, this goes from the end of their 2016 season into the next season. You get what I'm saying? If you guys can read, I mean, I'm not going to read all this, but you know what I'm saying. And so you have to wonder, why is this team so bad? What is it that makes this Pistons team the worst team in NBA history? They have a #1 overall pick in Cade Cunningham from, what is it, 2-3 years ago, and they're the worst team in NBA history. You're telling me there's not another team that had, no top 10 picks in their entire roster and were just god awful? No, this is the worst team. And if you look at the stats, this is obviously, sorted by points. But it's not really about the point. Well, I mean, they do have a pretty bad offense, which we're about to get into. But the main problem with them, and pretty much everyone that talks about this team talks about this, is their 3-point shooting and their spacing. Now, luckily, they just got back Bojan Bogdanovic. He has now played 3 games. I guess he only started 2 of them. And that is like their best shooter. And they were missing him for a while. Now, is he the missing piece that's all of a sudden going to make this team good? No, but he's going to help the spacing, and maybe they'll get a win soon. In fact, if we take a look at their upcoming schedule, they have 2 games against the 76ers. Joel Embiid is probably going to go for like 50 in one of them, maybe 33 in the other. I mean, they're not going to beat Philly. There's no way. Watch them beat Philly now that I'm saying this. They're definitely going to win one of those games now that I'm saying this. But you know what I'm saying? It's not looking good. They got 2 games against Philly, so now it's looking like a 22-game losing streak. Milwaukee, I mean, they shouldn't really win that. I mean, how are they going to beat the Bucks? The Hawks, I don't think they're winning that, but maybe they get a win against the Jazz, and then they have 2 against the Nets. Can they get 1 win against the Nets? Probably. That's right around Christmas. So maybe the losing streak ends there, but I don't know. I mean, they really might get the worst record of all time come the end of the season. But back on topic of the Detroit Pistons roster, we have Cade Cunningham, who's scoring 22 points per game. But when we're talking about the spacing, we're talking about the 3-point scoring, he's not having the greatest of seasons when it comes to 3-point shooting. Of course, they have Bojan, so bang, that's now one 3-point shooter. Again, he's only played 3 games. Jalen Duren, not a shooter. Ivy, kind of a shooter, not really having the best season. Isaiah Stewart, not really a shooter. Alec Burks can be a little bit, still not helping out too much. Like, it doesn't really help when you only have like 2 3-point shooters. Asar Thompson, no. I mean, if you've seen the clips, he literally airballs like once a game. Of course, he's in his first season, so that'll develop over time, but not right now. You know, he's not shooting good. Killian Hayes, no. Marvin Bagley, no. Marcus Sasser, kind of, but he doesn't really play that much. Now we're getting to the minutes where like these guys aren't even playing. If we sort it by 3-point percentage, I mean, the guys at the top like Stanley, Kevin, they don't really play. So those are the only guys shooting over 40. But then we get Marcus, who plays like 17 minutes a game. Bojan at 38. Isaiah Stewart at 36, attempting 4 a game. So that's actually pretty solid for a big. Cade at shooting 36. Or no, that's Alec Burks shooting 36, Cade at 34, Ivy at 32. They just don't really shoot that good from 3. They're shooting 33% as a team. And if they want to, you know, go get some wins, maybe come the trade deadline. I don't see that why they'd make a big move at the trade deadline, but maybe in the future, you know what I'm saying? In the offseason, spacing should be their number one thing. When it comes to defense, they've got a few guys. They're not the best at defense. They have Jalen Duren, and they have Asar Thompson. After that, that's pretty much it. I mean, those are 2 like pretty elite level defenders. After that, they really don't have much. So I don't think defense is a main priority for them. However, I think spacing is. They need to get some more shooters on this team moving forward. Now, what I thought would be interesting to do is take a look at their recent draft picks. So looking at the last draft with the 5th pick, they took Asar Thompson. That looks like a pretty good pick right now. Obviously, he can't shoot that well right now. He's shooting 13% from 3. Am I seeing that correctly? Yeah, nope. He's shooting 13% from 3. But 5th overall pick, Asar Thompson, really lengthy player. Looks like he could maybe be a DPOY one year, not all NBA, but all defense caliber player. You know, I think this is a solid pick. It's only his first season, so there's not much to say about that. Last year, or I should say 2 drafts ago, Jaden Ivey from the 2022 drafts. He's not looking to be too good, but he's someone that could develop better over time. However, with a lot of these Detroit Pistons picks, they don't really develop their players too well. That's like a theme that I've kind of seen in the past. Cade Cunningham, 1st overall pick the Pistons had. That is probably their best pick that we are going to see. That might be their best pick in a decade. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, probably the last decade. Of course, they had the 1st overall pick, so it's kind of hard to go wrong there. But they did get Cade Cunningham in 2021. Going back to 2020, Killian Hayes. Now, I mean, this is Jesus Christ, bro. Killian Hayes, if you guys are on Twitter a lot, you guys might see, I think it's called like the Hate Central, Hater Central, something like that. He is literally the player that gets hated on the most. He is the player that has the most outlandish bad stat lines all the time. And he's just, I don't know what the Pistons are doing. They start him a lot of the time when I know you don't have a lot of players, but it just, I don't know. I think the Pistons, I'm not gonna say I have to give up on him, but it's not a good look when you're starting a guy that is pretty much a meme in the NBA for literally being bad. But yeah, this is a terrible pick, not only for the fact that he is not that good, but Tyrese Halliburton went 12th. Even a guy like Devin Vassell at pick 11. I mean, you're taking pretty much any of these players over Killian Hayes. Cole Anthony's down here. Tyrese Maxey at pick 21. Like, that's just an all-time mess up by the Pistons. I know that there's going to be some drafts here where they don't have a pick. Right here, they pick Sekoy Doumbouya, who's already, I believe, out of the league 3 seasons. Not a good pick there. 2018, this might be one of the years where they didn't have a pick. Yeah, I don't think they had a 1st round pick this year. Maybe I missed it, but I'm pretty sure they didn't. 2017, they got Luke Kennard, who's actually a pretty solid bench player, one of the best shooters in the NBA. 2016, they got Henry Ellenson. Not a great pick. 2015, this is going to be the last year that I do Stanley Johnson. So another, bench type of player. And these are all basically lottery picks. So Pistons have been struggling pretty bad when it comes to drafting, and not only drafting, but developing their players in recent years. I wanted to look into more stats and even some advanced stats, which we're about to get into real quick, just to see what the Pistons were kind of doing as a team. They score the third lowest points per game with 108.7. Offense is really their main issue. Defense, obviously not the best, but offense, they're literally bottom 3 in the league. If we go to plus minus all the way over here, basically, how much do they win games by on average, or how much do they lose games by on average? The Pistons, on average, lose by 10 every game. That is crazy to see. And what else is also crazy to see is that they are not only one of the worst teams in NBA history, the Spurs are 3-19. So that's something. And the Wizards are 3-19. I think the Spurs are, I guess they deserve to be in this tier right now, but I think the Spurs are the better team out of these three. Wizards, they could give the Pistons a run for their money come the end of the year. I'm not gonna lie. The Wizards could give the Pistons a run for their money, and maybe the Wizards have the worst record come the end of the year. If we look at offensive rating, which is pretty similar to, points per game, the Pistons are 4th worst in the league with a 107.6. If we look at defensive rating, let's see where they are. They are about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7th worst with defensive rating. So it's not great when you're bottom 7 in both offensive rating and defensive rating. We've got some really interesting stats here, which I didn't even know was a thing until I really started looking into it and digging deeper. If you look at points scored off of 3-pointers, 28% of their points are scored off 3-pointers, which is 3rd lowest in the league. If we look at the most, it is the Mavs. So Mavs get 40% of their points off threes, which is actually crazy. That's a really high number. But Pistons, 3rd lowest of their points scored are off of 3-pointers. Again, they need 3-point shooting. It doesn't help when pretty much everyone's just packing the paint. Now, like I do in most of my videos, I like to talk about some of the players that are the most red hot in the entire league. The first guy that we have to talk about is Anthony Simons. Over his last 3 games, 38 points, 30, 28. He's finally back from an injury, and he's been going absolutely crazy. I've actually watched a few of his games, and he's a player that I could see taking like a Tyrese Maxey type jump. Obviously, the Trailblazers are in no position to really win now or really win at all. But like the 76ers are with Tyrese Maxey. But I think, talking about the skill set, not exact replica, but I think I could see Simons taking that sort of jump that Maxey took, that most improved player jump. Maybe, he's already doing it now. I was gonna say next year, but I guess even this year. De'Aaron Fox, over his last 8 games, the stats speak for themselves. 29 points, 34, 30, 26, 40 bomb in there, 29, 36, 26. I think D Fox is averaging over 30 points per game on the season. You'd like to say he's in, the MVP conversation, but is he really? Like, it's just kind of tough when you're in a league with Jokic, you're in a league with Embiid, Luka, even a guy like, I guess Tatum's not really in there right now, but something that I think is going to matter a lot when it comes to the voting this year is a team's record. Like, obviously that matters in most years, except for I think that one Westbrook year when he won MVP. I think that was the only one where it was like kind of really noticeable that it wasn't like a top team with a player that won MVP. But he's going crazy, bro. Fox is going crazy with the Kings, and he's dealt with some injuries, but he's back. Now, this is kind of a random one, a player that I did not expect to be playing this good, but Kobe White, over his last 5 games, is averaging 26 points per game, 6.4 rebounds per game, 5.6 assists per game, shooting 50% from the field, 54 from 3, and 84 from the free throw. And he's almost 50-50-90. It's normally 50-40-90, but Kobe White, this is obviously going to slow down. He's not going to be a player that averages 26 points per game, but I got to give him his flowers while he's, going crazy. Next up, we got one of the most inconsistent players in the entire league, or I should say most inconsistent stars. I'm not going to say superstars. He's not a superstar, but stars, a player that was, I believe, all NBA last year, I think third team, which is actually crazy. I don't really know how that happened, but that's beside the point. Julius Randle over his last 7 games is averaging 28, 9, 5 assists, and he's shooting 57, 41, 81. I think he had a game where he had 20 boards in this 7-game span. He also had a game where he had 40 points, I believe. He's been going crazy. Underrated, the tweet says. Is he underrated? Y'all let me know in the comments. But I mean, he started off shaky, but he's starting to heat up. This one's not really surprising. Luka Doncic, I mean, he puts up pretty much like video game numbers every single night. Over his last 7 games, you see a 35 bomb in there, 32, 40, 36, 41, 30, and another 30. 7 straight games of 30 plus. But that's not all you get with Luka. You're getting pretty much 10 boards a night, or maybe a little bit less, and then basically 10 assists per night, maybe a little bit less. There's that one game in there, 36 points, 15 boards, 18 assists, which I made actually that's the 40-point game right above that I made the video on about Luka, I believe 3 videos ago. Paolo Banchero has been looking really good. Like, I've been watching some Magic games. They're one of my favorite teams to watch. And over his last 5 games, Paolo's averaging 26, pretty much 27 if you round up, 8.6 boards, 4.4 assists per game, shooting 51.5% from the field. So that's another player that I definitely have to highlight. He's really looking like he could take that jump that people have been kind of waiting for. It's just like he's on like the brink of like that little breakout, you know what I'm saying? All of the players I just mentioned were from the Dunk Central Twitter account that they were giving praise to, you know, those certain players. But there is a player or two that I want to mention that didn't get praised on Twitter. One of them being Bogdan Bogdanovic, who just dropped a 40 bomb. Is that his highest points ever? I should probably check that, you know, being the guy that makes these videos. In fact, I will check it right now. Okay, so I just checked it. It is his highest points in a single game ever. His last highest, or whatever, the old record for him was 35 points. He did that in 2020. Bogdan has been on a tear, not only in this game. Well, this is like the game where he really went on a tear, but he's just been solid for the Atlanta Hawks, averaging 16 points per game. That's actually 64th in the NBA. So good for him. He's actually pretty high up there compared to the other players. Top 64 for points is actually, that's a accomplishment. 3.4 rebounds, 2.2 assists. You guys can't see that on your screen, but he's shooting 45% from the field. And if we look at his game log, he's scoring, okay, you guys can see it now, 40, 20, 20, 14, 14. And I mean, he's even getting some steals, 2, 1, 0, 2, 2. Like, he's just been a guy that's kind of filling up the stat sheet for the Hawks, and I had to give him his flowers today's video. The next guy I got to talk about is a guy that has been kind of flying under the radar, I feel like, when it comes to NBA media. You look at Twitter, you look at ESPN, the Hornets are not a mainstream, you know, team, so it kind of goes under the radar. But Terry Rozier, since LaMelo Ball has gone down, has been on an absolute tear against the Heat last night. 34 points and 13 assists. And that's not it. Like, he's been on a tear like his last, what is it, 6 games since LaMelo went down. But yeah, taking a look at his recent games, 34 and 13. Then before that, 21 and 13. Before that, 25 and 7 with 2 blocks in there and a steal. Then he had 23.7 assists and then 37 points, 13 assists. And again, LaMelo went down like 6 or 7 games ago. So since he's gone down, Terry Rozier's been on an absolute tear. If you enjoy the sport of basketball and you're still watching, make sure that you click the red subscribe button. Make sure that you're subbed up, turn on noties. I'm posting every single day on this channel. Also, watch the video that's popping up on your screen right now if you haven't seen it.